to be a very strong worded letter from the Tripartite Alliance members to the President against the suggestion of going elsewhere to seek money. Perhaps set the record straight for us. What are you really against?
Thank you for having me, Cathy, and I greet the viewers of your channel. The Alliance component has said, when you remember the Alliance statement that we released in the past week, that what we want is that any move towards the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank must be the last resort. We have said that what we do not want is for South Africa, as compromisers we are now in relation to the state of our economy and the fact that we have been rated to a junk status, we would not want ourselves to be playing in the hands of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank in terms of South Africa compromising itself on our own sovereignty. So we have said as an alliance that we want the Treasury to look into alternatives, financial systems that can help the economy of this country to move forward.
The Finance Minister has said his position on going to the IMF is beyond ideology. In fact, he has said that if not the IMF, then give me money. I cannot eat ideology. That's how he's been quoted in one of the newspapers. So from what he's saying is that it could be a desperate situation. What are the solutions that you're putting on the table?
Look, Cathy, we don't believe that running to the IMF is the only solution. We think that South Africa, we still have what we can tap into in terms of our own reserves that we have as a country. We can shift budget and move and reprioritize as a country. We have always said as a federation that we have nothing money that is sitting on the sitters. We have said as a federation, for an example, that we can also ensure that the DFIs in this country should also be looked into to try and see what is it that we can get. We know that there are lots of millions that are sitting in the PIC and trillions of rands. We are saying that why are we not tapping into those alternatives before we can move? The question we're raising is that, look, running into the IMF, what are the conditions of the loan that we'll be seeking to the IMF? What we would not want is to see ourselves putting our country into a big for anyone that can buy into South Africa and dictate the terms of how we're going to prioritize our.
We seem to be having a bit of difficulty with Islam, but I'm going to continue to see how far we'll get. In as far as the reprioritization of the country's finances are concerned, then, do you think that the Finance Minister needs to table a new budget speech after this lockdown?
Reprioritize, it may require that. And we think we have learned that he can also do it sitting at his office. We don't have to cost South Africans any more money for him to do that budget. But we think that we need to put our head together. And we have said as a federation that we also need to ensure that business in this country does not sit back, but they have to come forward and also say these are the alternatives that South Africa can use to ensure that all of us get out of the quagmire that we are finding ourselves in.
The letter also seems to point in particular to the role of the Reserve Bank and what that would need to look like during this crisis and even the next couple of weeks, that you want the Reserve Bank to be playing a bigger role, especially in terms of our country being a developmental state.
Indeed. We as an alliance, we have said that the Reserve Bank has a role to play. And we think that we want to allow the Reserve Bank to also look into those alternatives that we will be putting as an alliance. But I must say that all the issues that we're raising in this interview, because we are coming from an alliance political council, and at no point am I raising the issues that were in the discussion in the meeting, because we have agreed that issues that were discussed in that meeting are embargoed and no one should be speaking on it. And I take that the interview is based on the statement that the Alliance had released in the past week.
Yes, absolutely. And in as far as what that intervention might look like, you know, what is the thinking right now? Because, of course, we've had big issues before around the independence of the Reserve Bank and what it means then when that independence is either interfered with or the Reserve Bank is prevented from doing what it's supposed to do.
We have always said, Cathy, that the role of the Reserve Bank is also to ensure that we are able to kickstart the economy, we are able to create employment in this country. So we think that what Cosatu have always raised in the past, it is time for us to really look into those alternatives that we have said and we have called for the Reserve Bank to do in terms of renewing its mandate and for us to review its mandate, apologies. So we think that we need to tap into the alternatives that we have put in place as a federation and other alliance components in relation to the mandate of the Reserve Bank.
When you project then the next couple of months, what kind of picture are you painting as Cosatu about the state of the country and the economy?
We are indeed in trouble as a country, but we think that having been downgraded by the agencies that downgraded us, we think that we have an opportunity with the weak rand to start focusing on the domestic economy as a country. We have an opportunity now to really start building our economy and ensure that we focus on what we produce, what we consume as South Africans, instead of relying on imports as a country. But also, of course, we understand that there are sectors of the economy that are contributing to the GDP of the country massively, which are also focusing on the export. But we think majority of what can take this economy forward will be about South Africans focusing on the domestic economy and ensure that we build that strength that we have as a country. And we think that COVID-19 has indeed taught us that reliance on outsiders is a challenge for this country. And we have always now moved around and sought for even sectors that have never been deemed to be essential. During this COVID-19, we have realized the importance of those sectors. So we think that let's use the lessons that we have learned from the challenge and move forward in building our economy.
In as far as the letter that you've written to the President then, what are you expecting from him? Is it going to be an official response? Was just this a note for him to keep in mind?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
In terms of the letter that you've written to the President alongside with the other alliance partners, what are you expecting from him? Are you expecting him to act on the letter? And if so, what would you want him to do post this, reading that letter? Look,
we relate to the President on two areas. He is the President of the African National Congress. And when we meet with him at the level of the alliance, we meet the president of the ANC. Of course, we understand that in relation to his responsibility as the head of state, he would have to take those issues into his cabinet. And we think that the deployees of the African National Congress will understand what is in the interest of South Africans at large. So we expect that all the things that we have put in our letter, that they will be looked at objectively, but importantly, it is for us to put the country first and ensure that we use all the necessary resources that we have internally before we can even consider going to any external funder beyond South Africa.
All right, we're going to leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much for your time.